Old Dominion with a new offensive coordinator, hoping for a new offense and some more points. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt. I am your host, Dave Schultz. Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Sorry about the last week. The news is out. I have moved to Lafayette, Louisiana. I'll be hosting afternoons on 103.3, the GOAT, the home of the Louisiana Raging Cajuns. So we're still setting everything up and making the move. So appreciate your patience, but we will be back in on a regular basis. Obviously, you know, we got to talk about the two basketball coaches that have joined the Sun Belt from Alabama. We got spring games. We got baseball. We got softball. Can you understate this? And I'll be a homer for this fact. The Raging Cajun softball team have won 78 Sun Belt Conference series in a row. That's like a decade. That's not like a bad weekend in a decade. God, that's amazing. All right. In this episode, though, well, first of all, let me tell you, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. That's good news because now I moved from the state of Alabama to the state of Louisiana, and I will be using my FanDuel account. All right, joining us today will be Mike Langston. He is the host of the ODU Monarchs podcast. Excuse me, the ODU Monarchists podcast, talking ODU Monarchs, little history of football and what their expectations are. Again, just like Texas State did, they went out and got a high-flying, in this case, offensive coordinator Kevin Decker from Fordham. They got a transfer in from Fordham. Do they have their quarterback? Do they not have their quarterback? They should be a fun team to watch. At least, you know, if you're not necessarily winning, you're certainly not going to be boring, and that's going to be the case with ODU probably in 2023. So with no further ado, let's talk with Mike Langston from ODU Monarchists. All right, real thrilled to have Mike Langston on from ODU Monarchists, talking ODU football. Mike, thanks very much for hopping on Locked On Sunbelt. All right, for those of us who had been covering the Sunbelt for a while, ODU obviously one of the newer teams in the conference. Why don't you give us a little history lesson, because I think back in the day, ODU actually beat Syracuse in basketball way back in the day. And I actually know about Mark Wassinger, former San Francisco Giant and Boston Red Sox executive. And then obviously most people know about Justin Verlander, who also attended ODU. But what is the little history of ODU football?
So ODU football, we had a team back when we were a part of William & Mary. We were under William & Mary and Virginia Tech at the time. We had a football team that existed for probably 6 or 7 years. And due to World War I and budgets, we lost the players and we had to shut the program down. And we bring it back in 2009. And Bobby Wilder was kind of given the role of bringing the football program back. And we got off to a hot start when our second quarterback ends up being Taylor Heineke, who has had a long NFL career at this point. We were in the CAA and hit the ground running. And as quickly as we entered FCS football, we announced we were going to FBS. We joined Conference USA, and we kind of hit a couple rough patches in Conference USA with Bobby and his staff. I think the overall kind of arcing point was that staff just wasn't ready for FBS football. They were a great FCS staff, but weren't ready for FBS. And we made the switch to Ricky Rahne a few years ago. His first season was the COVID season, which Old Dominion did not play football. And he has now had 2 seasons at the helm of the program. Our first season going 6-6 in Conference USA and going to the Myrtle Beach Bowl. And then last season, which was a struggle, but he got a big win over Virginia Tech, but we only managed 3 wins on the season.
Did you say they were playing football at World War I and then not until 2009? Did I miss that?
Yeah, World War II. Sorry.
World War II. Okay. All right.
Yeah, we took – it was
so still about
So
70 years off.
Yeah, and this is the first time we've ever played football as Old Dominion. So we've only been doing this a little over a decade now of football.
All right, and had a big win over Coastal Carolina as well. Really throttled the Chanticleers this past year, and then I don't think won another game. What happened there? Because it looked like it was going well, and then was there injuries? What happened to the Coastal Carolina season last year?
I think it was a couple things. We did have some major injuries. One to Zach Kuntz, who is headed to the draft and is going to be selected probably on day 1 or 2. We had some other injuries that were notable. Ollie Jennings did not finish the season. He is now transferred out. But most notable problem last year was the offensive coordinator. We fired our offensive coordinator before the season and had an interim for the entire season, our offensive line coach, Kevin Rahne, who, to be honest, he seemed overmatched for the position. He's a great offensive line coach, but he was not ready for the role of offensive coordinator. And our offense could never really find a groove. It got repetitive at times, and they just didn't really have the pieces to run the offense that Kevin was trying to run. They were trying to do it.
It's Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. We're with Mike Langston from the ODU Monarchs. All right, so Ricky Rahne makes a slight change. They go after, and we got 2 great offenses coming into the Sunbelt, one in the West with G.J. Kinney from Incarnate Word, and Rahne gets Kevin Decker from Fordham, who basically led the country in points with 50 points a game and I think some 600 yards a game. Really ridiculous. How has that been? How did that work out this spring? How did trying to install a new system work out this spring?
I think it's going really well so far. I mean, it's still kind of early, and I'm not sure if we have the bodies yet that we need completely to run this offense. But what we saw in the spring game yesterday was an offense that is able to spread the defense out wide and creating massive running lanes. And running is something we could not do at all last year. Other than the Coastal Carolina game, we could not run the ball. And yesterday we did not have our projected starting running back playing at all, and all 4 backs that did play were making plays in the running game. So I'm very excited about what this offense can do, because once you run the ball and you can run the ball consistently, it makes everything easier.
And then I gotta believe, at least one of the 2 guys going for the starting quarterback decided he had enough. He didn't even make it to the spring ball game. We kind of wondered, right? It was Hayden Wolf as the experienced guy with ODU, and then you go get the backup quarterback from Fordham, where Kevin Decker came from. I think that decision has been made because Hayden Wolf said sayonara. He went into the transfer portal. I would presume, was it Grant Wilson is from Fordham? He's going to be the starting quarterback, whether they get somebody or not. It's all on him now. What do you think? Why do we think Hayden Wolf decided to go into the transfer portal before the spring game and see how things worked out?
Well, from what I was told, is he lost first-team reps. The first-team reps were only going to be going towards Grant Wilson and Jack Shields, who at the time was a walk-on. But yesterday during the spring game, at the very end, he was awarded a scholarship. The team mobbed him. It was an awesome scene.
That's always awesome scene.
That means if he's behind both Grant and Jack, Hayden was your 3rd-string quarterback.
All right, let's take a time out. We'll be back with more with Mike Langston from the ODU Monarchs Podcast. But first, let me tell you about FanDuel. Grand slams, no hitters, and double plays are back. And there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. So don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. FanDuel, the official partner of Major League Baseball. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt. Let's continue our conversation with ODU Monarchs. I keep on screwing that up. ODU Monarchists podcast host Mike Langston. So that
yeah.
makes sense. All right. So it did come out, and the coach Ricky Rahne did say they're going to go look in the transfer portal to get another body in there. But I would be not knowing anything, and I was kind of teasing you online. Grant Wilson's going to be the guy until further notice, right? I mean, that's where we are right now.
I think that would be the easy assumption to make, but the way Jack Shields ran and operated the offense yesterday, I would not be surprised if with a couple more months of getting those first-team snaps, if he's still splitting and battling Grant for the job. The way he looked yesterday, he was fluid. He was not hesitating to pull the ball on the run options. He was making some great throws. Yesterday, he was the best quarterback on the field. Grant Wilson did make quite a bit of plays, but if you were comparing the two, it's just one practice, though. So I don't want to get ahead of myself, but if it was based off of what happened yesterday, Jack can honestly win this job.
All right, we're talking. It's Locked On Sunbelt. We're talking with Mike Langston from ODU Monarchs, the ODU podcast, if you will. All right, so you say they didn't quite have the bodies yet. What more are they looking for? Because again, the transfer portal is not just opening up for the players; it's opening up back up for the teams as well. They mentioned going to look for a quarterback. What other positions do you think they have a need for as we we wind down the spring, so to speak?
I could see them looking at offensive line. There were times yesterday where the defense was sending pressure and the offensive line was getting beat pretty good. So I could see them going for a tackle. We have lost a lot of experience this offseason. We got Sal going to the draft. Tyrann Hunt is likely a undrafted free agent that will also be picked up. That's two big, talented players we're losing there. And we lost another to the portal. So you lose three starters, you got to try to figure out something there. The other area of concern would be cornerbacks for me. That is not a position of depth right now for Old Dominion, and they're going to have to try to find some kind of manufacture some depth through the portal there.
I think Mike was referring to, was it Nick Saldivari, the offensive lineman?
That's right.
We had him on Locked On Sunbelt. He unfortunately, when he came to South Alabama, he was sick. He got sick the night before that ball game, which a game they actually played much better than I thought they would. They challenged the Jaguars, only losing 27-20, and then was coming to the Senior Bowl, and obviously did pretty well in the Senior Bowl. What is the projection for Saldivari?
Well, I've seen it all over the place. He keeps climbing up the draft boards because of his ability to play every position on the offensive line. That versatility is just awesome for an lineman, especially with it being a position that always has injuries. So to have that flexibility, I mean, I've seen him as projected as early as the late first. So it's anyone's guess. I'm not a draft prognosticator at all, but
right.
I'm just happy for the guy. I know he's going to have a great career.
Well, late first means you're going to a good team. So he may not play right away, but if he gets to fill in, he's usually going to be playing for a good team if it's a late first, unless someone moves up to go get him. Again, we're talking with Mike Langston, ODU Monarchs on Monarchists, on Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, it feels like there's been a shift in power in the Sunbelt. It kind of just happened. The way Troy ends up winning the championship game, taking down Coastal, which was a little shady anyways, because it should have been James Madison had the better season. But this whole FBS move is, I don't understand the rule at all, but it is what it is. What would expectations be for ODU? Because it feels like the East is going to be wide open. I think Marshall's going to be pretty good. Coastal will be good because they have Grayson McCall, but a lot of that talent that won a couple of years ago is gone. Jamie Chadwell is gone. They're running a whole new offense, so we'll see how that works out with the new head coach, Tim Beck. And App State needs a new quarterback. I think the East is really wide open. What is the expectations for ODU this season?
If I had to peg it, probably 3 to 5 wins. I'm hopeful we can make it back to a bowl game.
Okay.
But based off all of the losses on the roster, there's a lot of roster turnover. You're going to have a new quarterback in place, new offensive coordinator in place, new offensive line coach in place. The issues with the secondary. And then we play a very difficult schedule. So we're hosting Wake Forest. We're going on the road to Virginia Tech. And we got the Sun Belt East schedule. There's not many breaks for Old Dominion this season on the schedule. So kind of trying to project how they get to 6 wins is kind of tough.
When is the Wake game?
It's early in the season. I think it's second or third week.
All right, so that's interesting because I would suggest that that's when they would have a shot, but they're going to be just as inexperienced as Wake because Wake is replacing their quarterback as well. And again, if ODU, I don't know about the defense, but I got a feeling ODU is not going to try and play Marshall football where, score 17 points and, stop you. I presume ODU is going to try and put up 45 and, 45 points a game and, see if they can outscore you. Basically, come get us.
On defense, our front seven's pretty talented. It's the secondary is where the holes are. On offense, if we don't fix those holes on the secondary, we're going to have to score 45 to win games.
All right.
So it's going to be really interesting to see how it all comes together. But I love the way this offense does work because they were stacking guys. If you've ever watched Tennessee football, you can kind of get an idea of how they are going to line up. They're going to put up.
Okay.
They're going to stack 3 receivers on one side, 1 receiver on the other, no tight end. The defense is going to be spread out far across the field, and it's going to open up those running lanes, which opens up the passing game. We saw a couple times near the goal line where they actually used an H-back, which is very new to Old Dominion. I've never seen them do that before, so that was a pretty cool way to see a tight end line up. It's going to be a very different looking Old Dominion team, and we didn't really get the full look at what this offense can do yet. They didn't use any motion yesterday. I'm just very excited about this new offense. I think it will make it easier for us to contend in this Sun Belt. I'm just not sure the bodies are there yet.
Did they mention? First of all, you'll learn about me. I hear what I want to hear, Mike. And since Locked On Sun Belt is powered by FanDuel, I heard Mike Langston suggest take the over in ODU football games. That's what I heard.
I think
high-powered offense, lack of defense. Take the over. All right, let's take one more time out. We'll wrap things up with Mike Langston from ODU Monarchists. Got to write that time. Again, special thanks for hanging with us. I know there were no episodes last week, but we will be back on it somehow. I only have enough RAM in my head to move, start a new job, and get things settled. And so I do appreciate your patience and a continued growth of the channel. It has been just fantastic. It's been almost, I guess, about 7 weeks since I started talking to Town Square here in Lafayette, and we've had almost when we get to 200 subscribers, that's going to be tripled of what we had. We had like 52 subscribers back at the end of February. And if I hadn't stopped last week, we'd probably be already up to 200. So we will get there. Lots of spring ball to talk over, and we will do that all over the next few weeks. And, of course, the transfer portal will be hot and heavy as well. But just a special thanks for subscribing. Of course, you can find the podcast just audio wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Locked On Sunbelt. Also, anytime you see that in YouTube, please share it. Leave a comment. I will be the one answering it. I certainly, again, only have so much RAM, so a lot of the stuff that I see is what I read, and I pass it along to you. And local fans are going to know more than me in some cases, in many cases. And I'm happy to discuss the situation, and I have no issues with people telling me what's going on in their part of the country. So I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Let us wrap things up with Mike Langston from the ODU Monarchists podcast. It is Locked On Sunbelt. We're talking with Mike Langston, ODU Monarchists. What did Ricky Rahne and Kevin Decker say about how much of the offense was installed? I mean, everyone wants to get that base level, what it is, but this is something new. It feels, were they able to get 100% of it? Was it 50%? Is it just generally what they got in, the overall scheme, because how much are they going to be working on in August, whereas, these guys are going to obviously be working on it on their own. How much were they able to install, in the 15 practices?
I didn't get a number or anything like that. But from what I've been told and what I've seen, they got most of it in, but it's going to be an evolving offense based on who we land with this quarterback situation. We could land someone that's a grad transfer, hopefully, maybe more leadership and experience. Because right now, there's no one on Old Dominion's roster who has ever started or played in an FBS game. Not a single quarterback.
So you're not as convinced as I am that one of the two guys that are there is going to be the starting quarterback for ODU. You think they are in search of that grad transfer who, has got to be looking at those stats that come with Kevin Decker, and he's like, well, I can light this up for 3,000 or 4,000 yards like Todd Sendeo did, and maybe, become either, draft eligible or move up into the draft.
Right. I'm not sold that they think they have the guy, because why would you be telling everyone you're looking in the portal for a quarterback if you did think you had the guy?
Well, they need a third quarterback, right? They can't.
Well, they have a couple. They have a freshman coming in, and they had two other guys. They have a guy playing baseball right now. Yeah, they have 5 quarterbacks on the roster.
Oh, they do. Okay, all right.
But there's 2 that are competing for the starting job at this point.
Got it. All right. So let's wrap things up. A couple more questions with Michael Langston, ODU Monarchs from we're Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. What was the reaction of ODU being in the Sunbelt this year?
Everyone is very happy about our move to the Sunbelt. We're getting into a more regional conference. Conference USA was just not good for us. There was no rivalries. Closest game was Charlotte, which is not close at all to Norfolk. We now get the chance to play teams like James Madison, Coastal, App. The rivalry possibilities are there for us, and we're very excited about that. But fans aren't really happy when you only win one conference game. So
right.
Everyone is hopeful that this is the answer that Ricky Rahne needs for him to see more wins with this new offense.
And were you talking about this past week about another conference coming after ODU? Was there another possibility they could, with whatever's going on with the ACC and the SEC, we could get more conference reconfiguration? Is something else going on with ODU? Did I see that?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
We are in quite a few conferences because we sponsor so many sports that the Sun Belt doesn't have, but like field hockey, lacrosse, and sailing. So we're in a lot of sports that
I don't think there's a lot of sailing going on at Arkansas State and Troy. Just food for thought.
Yeah.
What about the fan base there? Because it is a transient city. It is a Navy town. My brother did his residency there, Virginia Beach and Norfolk. So how does ODU build a fan base there when people are, maybe not staying there on a permanent basis because of their careers?
Win games. When we win, we pack the stadium. In FCS, we had a waiting list of thousands of people that wanted season tickets.
Oh, wow.
Once the winning stopped, that waiting list they got through it pretty quick. So
right.
If we win, we sell tickets. And one of the beautiful things about the Sunbelt move was it did create a lot of excitement, and they set a record for season ticket sales last year. So we are headed in the right direction there. We just need to win more.
All right. Yeah, you didn't even mention Marshall. That can't be too, I'm not sure how easy it is to get to Marshall from Norfolk, but it is close by. What's that?
It's not easy.
It's not easy. So this is just a hop into the car and drive. But like you said, Marshall, Coastal Carolina, App State, James Madison, all relatively in the neighborhood. So it is good to have ODU here. And obviously that's like Coastal. How difficult can it be to, recruit to ODU? The beach is right there. We're 10 minutes from the beach.
Yeah. I think now that we have the right coaches in place, I believe Kevin Decker was the right guy. They needed to hire an offense coordinator, but now we got to get the dudes here.
I mean, they got two smart coaches. They got a coach from Cornell as the head coach, and they got a coach from Fordham. I mean, there's not too many guys that are smarter than that, right? Come on.
Yeah. They're going to figure it out.
He's Mike Langston from ODU, the ODU Monarchs. Really appreciate your time coming on Locked On Sunbelt. Well, I'm sure we'll have you on again sometime soon. Thank you so much, Mike. Really appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Go Monarchs.